So is Nigel Farage welcome in a Mel Stride-led Conservative Party?
No.
No? Absolutely not?
No, he is absolutely bent, as he has said, on destroying the Conservative Party.
Tell me why you're standing to be Tory leader.
So the Conservative Party needs to be rebuilt. And what it's got to do is firstly unite as a parliamentary party, and I think I'm in a good position to do that. I think I'm respected across the party. I think my political positioning is probably right for that. Chair of the Treasury Select Committee, Leader of the House of Commons, so all that kind of consensual approach to politics I think is important. But secondly, we've got to rebuild, and that means that somebody's got to drive real deep change. I've done that at the Department for Work and Pensions, where I brought in some of the biggest welfare reforms for a generation. The OBR saying that 400,000 fewer people going into long-term sickness and disability benefits as a consequence of the reforms that I brought in. And indeed, if you look at what we had by way of tax cuts as an offer in the last general election, 2/3 of that was being funded by the substantial reforms that I drove at the Department of Work and Pensions.
Let's just go back a step. What's gone wrong for the Tory party?
So we've lost trust, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is about unity. Why should the British public trust a party that fights itself, let alone projects a positive image for the country? And secondly, we have got to get together a platform, a policy platform that is going to deal with this challenge that we have with those that have gone to reform. And we should respect the fact that they've gone to reform, and we need to address that. But equally, we need to be concerned about reaching out to those voters in the centre and the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats as well.
Do you have an idea in mind of what Britain should spend on defence?
So I think moving to 3% is absolutely right.
Yep.
And I think the reason for that is the growing threats that we have with Putin, with Iran, with North Korea, for example. It's really important that we are in the right position, and I think that is an argument that pertains to all members of NATO. And I think America is right when it says we need to step up to the plate. Now you're seeing that in some countries like Poland, which are getting up to 4% plus, the Baltic states and others who are closer to the front line with Russia. But we must play our part, and I think that we already are actually as the second largest contributor to NATO, but I think we need to definitely be on that trajectory of getting ready for what will be possibly in the future more dangerous and difficult times.
3% by when?
So what we said in the election was 2030. I think that's something that we need to bottom out as a parliamentary party as part of that process. But we don't need to answer all the specifics of all these questions right now. There will be a temptation amongst those in this contest to do that for obvious reasons. But I think we do need to take a measured and sensible approach to this, which will take a bit of time. There will not be a general election probably for another 5 years, and we have the time to do that too.
So is Nigel Farage welcome in a Mel Stride-led Conservative Party?
No.
No? Absolutely not?
No. Nigel Farage is a very clever, very talented politician, but he is absolutely bent, as he has said, on destroying the Conservative Party. That is a party I love, I grew up with, I've been a member of for most of my adult life. No formal deals like that. But that's not the same thing as saying, Kitty, that we mustn't respect and reach out to those who are voting reform, and we absolutely must do that.
Is it Conservative to want to leave the ECHR?
What we must not allow is for the ECHR, or anything else for that matter that's not within our own sovereignty, to get in the way, for example, of having an effective deterrent to deal with illegal migration. There are many ways of doing that in the case of the ECHR, and these are challenges, of course, that other countries have got with the ECHR across Europe and are looking at. But what I think is really important in this contest is that stark positions are not set out, because somebody, having come through it and winning it, has then got to go back to the parliamentary party and get everybody to rally behind it. And I think the parliamentary party on those kind of issues, ultimately, what the finer grain detail looks like, have to be instrumental to a measured collective decision that unites us and is arrived at.
That sounds to me like you're more of a kind of Rishi Sunak, create bilateral relationships, say with Italy, about small boats, rather than sort of definitively saying, let's leave the ECHR.
Well, on the particular policy issue here, I think there is no doubt that if we are to solve illegal migration, we have to have a deterrent effect. And what that will look like is people knowing that to spend thousands of pounds to go across the perilous dark waters of the Channel to our shores is just not worth the risk. And at the moment it has been worth the risk for too many people, sadly, many of whom have died. So what we need is some kind of arrangement that has that deterrence at the heart of it. We saw it with Albania with the returns arrangement led to a 90% drop in the number of Albanians coming to our shores. So it can be done.
So was the Rwanda plan a failure from its inception?
No, it was a failure because it's been scrapped on the brink of it being put to the test. And we already saw the effects of Rwanda, actually, and people crossing from Northern Ireland into the Republic of Ireland to get out of our jurisdiction because they were concerned about Rwanda. We saw it in the stalling of crossings before the general election because people were concerned about arriving here when the Rwanda plan was in place. So deterrence works, and we have to have a policy that has that right at its heart.